Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode we can talk about Rolex bracelets, especially the ones with stretched Rolex bracelet. I've announced this several times, and now luckily my Jubilees from the 80s is back without stretch. Totally without stretched. And so in this episode I will explain to you how you can do this, and here's the reason why this is important. We all know that the prices for Rolex bracelets in general are going through the roof, and for this one, for a Jubilee bracelet, new old stock from the 80s, if you buy this from an AD, then you have to pay about 1,000 euros, all right? 1,000 euros, which makes roughly, very roughly, 1,100 to 1,200 US dollars. And in my opinion, this is not longer acceptable. This is not longer acceptable. This can a proper reason to buy a stretch repair. Little disclaimer here, I'm not related with the companies who offer the service, okay? I've paid for this, the full price, and I haven't announced anything. The owner of the particular company, he didn't know that I'm making this review right now. Now he knows. So I think this result stands for itself. Okay, but I thought only the review of the Jubilee bracelet would a little bit too less for an entire video, and so I decided I share my knowledge about how to buy yourself a nice vintage Rolex Datejust. We're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, and at the end of this video you will be able to spot problems, because the Datejust back then wasn't a luxury piece. It was a, let's say, a proper watch, a very high quality watch for middle class people. And you had to spend about, let's say, 1 month's salary to buy yourself a piece, okay? And that's over. We all know this. This is over. You have, I mean, if you are lucky and you make after taxes 8 grand a month, then you're very lucky, but then you are not longer middle class. So the main problem here is not the fake, it's the Franken watch. Yes, it's the Franken watch. You can't find huge amounts of Franken watches in the Rolex market, especially in the vintage Datejust market. And we will discuss how to spot Franken watches, how to avoid them. And to discuss every detail of the Datejust, we can use mine, of course. My Rolex Datejust 16030 is the reference here. But I have a little goodie. I bought another one. I bought another Datejust, same reference. This is from 1978, and this is from 1982. So very similar watches. And now look at this. This is clearly not fixed. This shows the stretch as hell. And with these two watches now, we can make a very good comparison between the newer one, the fixed one, and the old one. We can examine this in detail, and then we can find out what a stretch repair can do and what not. So let's go into detail. And as I said, the problem is not the fake here, the problem is the Franken watch. So we have to involve here a method how to spot a Franken watch. And you start with 2 numbers, reference number, of course, and the serial number or case number, because it's on the case. And here you can see this watch without the bracelet, because serial number and reference number are between the lugs. And sometimes they're hard to see because of corrosion. Yes, stainless steel can corrode a little bit over the decades, and you have some friction with the metal bracelet, so there are some signs. But if it's hard, then use a magnifier, because you have to know those numbers, especially the serial or case number, because you can figure out with that number the year of manufacture. There are charts available online, link in the description, where you can check the year of manufacture of your watch. And then you have a very useful information which you can combine with other informations. And here's a good example for what I mean. Please note the bezel. And now let's assume you're going to buy yourself a Rolex Datejust with a reference 1604. Then you could easily make a Google search, and you can search images, and then you would see you need a gold bezel on that watch. And when your watch comes with a steel bezel, then there's something wrong. This is a strong sign for a Franken watch. Or let's take another example. If you know by checking your case number that your watch is from, let's say, 1985, and then it comes with dolphin hands, then you have to check online, have they ever produced in 1980 a Rolex Datejust with dolphin hands. And if this is not the case, then again, strong sign for a Franken watch. Okay, let's collect more information now, and we can use the Swiss under the 6th position. There are, I think, 4 or 5 variations out there, and they are very useful because they give information about the luminescence. And you can imagine that not every luminescence was in use over decades. So let's start with the early 60s Swiss. Okay, only Swiss, not Swiss made, not T-Swiss. You want to see only Swiss there. And this means radium dial. Radium, very dangerous because radioactive, but they didn't know this back then, so they wrote only Swiss on the dial. Okay, if you see a Rolex from the 70s with only Swiss on the dial, then there's something wrong. Then you have a case from the 70s and the dial from the 60s, with one exception. I will explain this in a minute. Okay, second, T, Swiss T, means tritium. When they found out that radium is very, very dangerous, they changed to tritium. And tritium is less radioactive, and so they used it until 1998. So again, if you have your nice Rolex from the 60s and the dial shows T, Swiss T, then there's something wrong. Okay, let's stop talking about Franken watches now. Let's talk about a little bit about the technical aspects of the movement. And here you see the common Datejust movement, 3135. And very reliable, very robust, easy to fix, and you can easily find Datejusts which run 10 years or 15 years or even 20 years without a service. But you have to make a decision here. If you want to buy yourself a Datejust, very early model from the, let's say, 60s or early 70s, then you are without a quickset. Yes, without a date quickset. And I personally find this annoying. I mean, if you wear the piece every day, then it's okay. Then you have to correct the date from time to time. But if you have a big collection and you wanna change watches, let's say daily, then this can be super annoying. Then if you have bad luck, you have to cycle through an entire month to get the correct date there. And that's one of the reasons why I prefer the 16030, because it is a new variation of the old movement with a quickset. Okay, let's talk a little bit about polishing. And sometimes it's hard to spot if a watch is polished or not, but I can ensure these both are polished. And you can see this if you examine the lugs very closely. You can't see it on the wrist actually, but on those images you can, because the lugs are slightly different. And look at the left one and the lug on the 5 position and on the 7 position, they are a little bit different. And then you can say this is polished. Is polishing acceptable? For me, yes, but it depends, of course. You want to see the classic form of the Datejust case, and if the lugs are totally round, it's no fun wearing. Can you wear a Rolex Datejust on leather? Yeah, technically you can, of course, and it looks nice, but it's not the same. I'm deeply in love again with Jubilee bracelets. I wore one time my Datejust on a mesh bracelet, and I took quite some heat for that. But yeah, well, now I'm with the Jubilee again. And the problem here, now we have to speak about fakes. I don't know why, but I saw more fake Jubilees than fake Datejust. Very strange. I don't know the reason. If you do, please share it in the comments with us. And so, how to spot a fake Jubilee? You have to examine every detail. Let's start on the left. There is this patented and registered Swiss made. This has to be there. And you can see the Rolex crown, the Rolex logo. And please note the curves or this ornament surrounding the Rolex logo. It's slightly different. On the right side, close to the crown, you see a more closed form, and on the left side you see a more open form. And this is important. This has to be there. Then you see the steel inox, and in one fake I have seen, there was a steeple knox with a P, very ridiculous. And then of course you have to see the correct reference number. Every Rolex Jubilee has a reference number, which has to match the year of manufacture as well. And you can see the B over there, the letter. And you can check this on charts online, link in the description. And basically you have to check if these informations on the clasp are consistent. And if they are not, you see a fake. And now let's talk about the stretch repair. This is a very sad picture. On the left, of course, the fixed Jubilee, and on the right side, the older one, the heavily stretched. And yeah, this is not fun to see. Why is the stretch repair important? It's not only cosmetic, because there are pins in your Jubilee bracelet, pins between the links, and dust, sand, sweat and other particles, they work like sandpaper on those pins, and you can see this. If you disassemble a Jubilee, then you can see that the pins are thinner and thinner and thinner, and someday you will hear a silent knack and then your watch is gone. And I found 2 workshops who offer this, one in Hong Kong and one in Norway. And I live in Germany, so obviously I preferred the one in Norway, a company called Klokkeland. And they have a nice website and they explain the methods they use to make this operation. And a jeweler told me that this is serious work to do. It takes very long, it's very complicated, and generally it's very pricey, very expensive. And I was surprised because I've paid for my stretch repair $220 US. And this is for me absolutely acceptable. I mean, the bracelet now is worth, let's say, 650 euros or close to 700 US dollars. So it's a good investment in my opinion. But you have to bear in mind that after the stretch repair, your bracelet is short. So maybe you have to buy some extra links to wear the piece again, but I think it's absolutely worth it, and you can buy old vintage links on, let's say, forums. And I highly recommend to send the links together with the bracelet to the workshop. Okay, then they can assemble everything they can, and they can make a stretch repair also on the extra links. Okay, that's all about the Datejust and the Jubilee bracelet. I hope you find this content useful. I hope you are on the hook, on the Datejust hook, so to speak. And let me thank you very much for your attention, and until next time.